Hi guys, welcome to this week's YouTube video. So today I thought it would be really valuable to share with you guys some really supportive thoughts and ideas around transitioning into a new routine and what my morning routine looks like. Now, what I want to say and start with and preface before we get into this is not necessarily what your morning routine is going to or should look like. This is what works for us, and what's going to work for you is going to be completely different. But the reason that I thought this would be a good idea is because I'm about to go through two major transitions right now in my life, and the change in routine is going to be really, really big. And I think that routines are super helpful for us as moms, for those of us who are moms, because it gives us this foundation to start the day on. It allows us to go into the day feeling like the first part of the morning was already a really great accomplishment. And that's what we all want, right? We want to build that momentum throughout the day so the to-do list never gets too daunting, things don't feel too overwhelming, and we feel accomplished by 8 a.m., which is great. So when I like to think about what's about to happen in my life, I'm about to have a baby in the next probably 10 days. And then I also have my son going back to school next week in the next 7 days. And so those two things, like I said, are happening at the same time. And so there are some questions that I go through and I ask myself as routines transition and change, because this summer has been really lax for us. It's been super chill. We've had a lot of downtime. We've done a lot of traveling, and we've been waking up late. We've been going to bed a little later than usual, and it's time to hunker down and feel a little bit more structured. So with all of that said, the first question that I ask myself as things start to change and we do have to create a little more structure is, how can I make this change feel as supportive as possible? And the reason I ask myself that is because oftentimes those of us who are perfectionists and those of us who are a little bit more type A tends to have a harder time asking for help. And so when we have a hard time asking for help, we think we need to take it on all on our own and do it all on our own. But that's just not the case. I have been asking my husband, my in-laws, my mom, anyone I can to be supportive in this situation so that West feels like he has someone to take him to school, so that I feel like I have help with the new baby, so that we are all supported. And so we have some family members who are bringing over frozen meals. We have a plan for who's going to pick up and drop off West at school. We have a plan who's going to help me with Enzo during the morning. It's all planned out so it feels really supportive. And if I need more help from what we already have planned and structured, I will ask for it. But if you feel like you need help, maybe you ask your neighbor to help you with drop off or pickup. Maybe you feel like you can ask someone to help you meal prep during the week. Maybe you ask your husband. Chad and I switch off nights right now in terms of who's cooking. And I know a lot of clients who I work with are like, oh, I do all the cooking in the house. Maybe you ask your partner, hey, can we switch off nights? That way I feel a little bit more supported in that. But what would make this transition for you going back into routine, because that's the time of more structure for a lot of people, is fall. So what would make this feel more supportive? The next question is, how can I simplify this for myself? And again, I think that a lot of us type A people, a lot of us who come from that perfectionist side, try to make sure that we outwardly look like we're able and capable of doing it all the time. And it comes back to feeling supported, right? How can I simplify this too? You don't have to do it all. You shouldn't be doing all. And you can add on other layers as you go and as you feel more comfortable in your new routine. But one of the things that I've already decided personally that one of the things that I've already decided personally that I am not going to be doing this year, just because of the timing, is being the room parent for West's school. And I was last year, but it's a simplification. I'm bringing a new baby into the world. I need to cut down on the roles and responsibilities that I have. And there are a lot of things in our life that are choices. There are choices that we make, that are things that we add to our plate that don't necessarily have to be there. And so as you transition into more routine and structure, you want to make sure you have the basics down. Are you eating a good, healthy, nourishing breakfast in the morning? Do you have time during the day to move your body? Are you getting some sort of self-reflection in? And that will get us to my next question that I'm going to ask. But are you doing these like very basic grounding things day to day so that you feel good through the transition? And then, like I said, if you want to, you can add on. The next thing that I like to do when I'm transitioning into a new routine is I want to have some sort of a very thoughtful and conscious check-in with myself when it's, 3, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks in, and I've had a little time to get into the transition, to see how I feel, and to see what I actually want to shift and change about the routine. Is there anything that I don't like? Do I need to ask for help somewhere else? Do I need to say no to something? Do I need to create a boundary somewhere? Is someone asking me for something that I want to say no to? There are so many intentional questions that you can really ask yourself as you transition into a new routine to make sure that it actually is serving you and is working for you, and that structure doesn't feel overwhelming. From there, you really have to let go of all of the unnecessary expectations that you are putting on yourself, the unrealistic expectations that you're putting on yourself. Because again, going back to the type of person that I have been in the past, that's typically how I would feel. I would often think, I'm going to do it all. I'm not going to ask for help. I'm going to make sure that I can make it all happen myself. And when I do that, it gets so overwhelming and I feel like a failure. And so I can say to myself right now in this moment, okay, it's unrealistic of me to think I'm going to take Wes to his first day of school and have a brand new baby and be the room mom and make sure I'm getting workouts in and getting myself a breakfast and, taking care of Enzo and taking him to playgroup. Like, it's just not realistic. And so what are the unrealistic expectations that you can let go of in this moment before the transition into your new routine even begins? So with all of those reflective questions out there, this is something that you can take into your journal, that you can look at yourself and say, hey, how do I feel about all these things? Because oftentimes we're living so go, go, go. We're so in that hustle all the time that we don't even have the time to reflect on how change is making us feel. Does it feel good? Does it feel uncomfortable? Does it feel overwhelming? What can I do to change how I feel in this? Because we do have control over our own lives. And when we take that control, we lighten the load of the cortisol and the stress hormones that we're outputting when everything often becomes too much in a time of change. So all of that being said, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what my routine looks like. So when Wes was going to school last year, I don't know what my new routine is going to look like, but my old routine and what it would look like if I wasn't having a baby in a week would look like is I would wake up somewhere between 5:45 and 6, just depending on how my sleep was the night before, maybe 6:15 if I, didn't get to bed until a little bit later. And I think that that's also a really good point to make, is that good sleep hygiene is a very important piece of being able and having the capacity to have a good morning routine, right? And your morning routine, like I said, doesn't have to be unrealistic. It doesn't have to be some crazy big thing. But if you want to be able to wake up at 6 a.m., you have to be able to be getting to bed by 10. You have to be shutting things down. You have to be putting the screens away. So that's a different story for a different day. But when you think about getting up somewhere between 5:45 and 6:15 gives me the space to have time to self-reflect every single day. This is a really important thing to me. I want to be connected to my own needs, to be connected to my own wants, desires, and priorities and values for the day. So what's important to me that day? What do I need to get done? And what do I want to make the to-do list and how it should look before anyone else has the opportunity to even ask me for anything? So If somebody is going to ask me, can you do this in an email, or can you help with that in an email? I want to be checked in with myself first. So that's what I do first. Then from there, I come down to the kitchen. I make my kids a nice, good, healthy blood sugar balancing breakfast. Typically, it looks something like maybe some hash browns that are just like some shaped potatoes that are fried in olive oil, some scrambled eggs, and a side of fruit. We try to do real whole foods, and I'll make myself a breakfast at the same time. So maybe it's a yogurt bowl with some fruit, or a shake with some protein in it, something that is going to, again, stabilize my blood sugar, help with my adrenals, help manage my stress hormones throughout the day. This also is going to really boost metabolic health for people who are on a journey of weight loss. So that's the next step. I make my matcha at the same time. I make a big water, like a 40 ounce that I try to drink by noon, with some turmeric and ginger and lemon, apple cider vinegar, all for, I call it my adrenal tonic. So I make those things, and then I will get the kids out of bed, get them dressed, get them ready. We brush teeth, do their hair, put their uniform on, and by that time we are out the door. So everybody is fed, and we sit down together as a family without a screen in order to have that time together before school starts. And I like the fact that we sit down at the table. We're not trying to eat in the car. We're not having a Pop-Tart in the car. It's not breakfast, processed food on the go. That piece of the puzzle is really important to me. I want to teach them those healthy habits that they can wake up a little earlier to properly fuel their bodies and not feel rushed first thing in the morning. So then I'll drop West off. By the time we get home at around 8, at this point, I will get a nice quick workout in and drop Enzo. Some days with my nanny, some days he'll sit with me and climb all over me in the gym. Just depends on what the timing and everything looks like. And then if it's not too hot outside, we'll typically go for a walk. I will listen to a podcast, and then by 9:30, I am into my workflow. So again, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It doesn't have to be this huge, complex thing. And I really like to build in the basics of what I really founded Wellness by Kelly on, what I think are the basics for good hormonal health into my day. Meditation, blood sugar balance, and movement. Those 3 things are my non-negotiables. Some days I'll meditate outside. Some days I will meditate up at my meditation altar. Some days I will journal. Some days I'll do Pilates. Some days I will do an F45 class. So like the movement or the breakfast or the self-reflection look different. Those things are flexible to me. The timeline on which I do them, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes. Those things can look different, but those are the 3 basic foundational pillars that I want to hit before I get into my work, because they make me feel so good, because they make me feel motivated and alive and energized and ready to take on any other challenge in the day. So I hope that this was helpful, and I can't wait to see some of you in the Back to Routine challenge when we get started. Stay tuned for more details and information on that. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and I will see you next